Our thanks and our praise, there's no doubt about that. Deserves our all. Sure do appreciate the singing tonight. Always a blessing. Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 4. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Paul, in the verses I'm about to read, likens himself to a wrestler. He does that type of thing more than once in the Bible, about a runner and laborer and all types of things that he likens himself to. But in this particular case, he likens not just himself, by the way, but others. He says we, but he likens himself to a wrestler. Look in verse 8. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Jesus, that the life also of Jesus might be made manifest in our body. He says, we, verse 8, are troubled on every side. He says, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. He likens himself to a wrestler that has an opponent that's just about to overcome him. The picture is this: he's been placed on the mat. The opponent has gotten the better of him. He has one shoulder already pinned, and just barely the other shoulder's above the ground. He's almost pinned. And he uses really 4 different illustrations to help us to see that. But here's what I want to say. Here's what Paul's saying. We may be down, but we're not out. That's what I want to try and preach on. Down, but not out. He is saying there's been times when we have been so down. There have been times where it seems like the devil, was almost about to win. It is as though that shoulder, the last shoulder, the second shoulder, which means I lose, is just barely above the floor. But he says, I'm not pinned. We haven't lost yet. We are not defeated. He is saying more than that. He is saying we are not discouraged. That's a big deal. We are not overwhelmed. That's a big deal. One thing to say, I'm not defeated because my shoulder's still off the floor. Well, that's true. Something else quite the difference is to say, I am not disturbed. I am not distressed. I am not bothered. It takes God to do that. He is in a bad place. He is talking about times when he has been in a bad place, and he needs help. In fact, if he does not get help, he's going to lose. He's going to be defeated. That's not what he desires. Now, that's true of individuals. So many times individual believers have become so overwhelmed and so beaten down, so oppressed by the enemy, that they are at the point to where they're almost ready to just throw in the towel and say, go ahead and pin me. I'm not even fighting anymore. Why keep fighting? I am at the point of defeat anyway. I'm going to give up. There has been many individual believers who have done that, who have thrown in the towel, have lost the fight, have given up. You know people like that. We all know people like that. There are not only individual believers, but there are churches who have done that. I have to be honest. I don't like being honest in this regard, but I must be honest. Most churches I know are down. Very few. I do know some that are doing well. I know some old-fashioned, independent, Bible-believing, fundamental, standard preaching churches that are doing well, but not many. Most that I know about are down. Most I know are being whooped for the most part. So that's what Paul is saying. There's a problem that must be addressed. This is not something to take lightly. What he's saying is not talking about some junior league wrestlers that if they go home, they'll cry a little bit and their mama will give them some ice cream and everything will be all right. This is something serious. This is something of spiritual significance. This is talking about individual believers. This is talking about the church. This is the avenue and the tools that God uses to reach out into this world, to give this world hope. I'll tell you one thing, if you watch the news and listen to these politicians now and the commercials now and all that's coming across our airways, if you're not depressed, there's something wrong with you. If you're not a little mad, there's something wrong with you, how they use these words now. And I'll be honest, I've got it in my heart, if a commercial curses or beeps, I ain't buying their product. I ain't going to buy it. But that's what the world is. And the problem is, here's somebody who is a tool that God wants to use to reach that world and to change that world, make that world better, but they're just about down. They're defeated. They're down and struggling. But then I remind myself, and I don't even know if I'm going to get to what I was going to preach. I remind myself of what the Lord said about these days that we're living. I believe we're living the last of the last days, the last few seconds before He comes back. And He warned us that it would be this way. There's going to be a falling away. We're seeing that. I don't like it. I don't like it in my own heart. I don't like it in your heart. I don't like it in the church world. But we're seeing it, and He said it's going to happen. It does not have to happen to you or to me or our church, but we are going to be prone for it to happen. There's going to be an atmosphere of defeat and discouragement and weakness and anemic among the house of God. He said there's going to be a falling away. There's going to be people who have given up. After the fight, they just gave up and quit, and some have walked away from church. Some still come to church, but they're defeated. Their joy and their peace and their burden has left. They're walking defeated lives. They have been pinned. But it's not just the fact that He said there's a falling away. He also talked about in the Old Testament that we can liken to our day also about a very small remnant. Did you hear what it said? A remnant is what is left. Speaking about the people who are left. And He said it's not just a small remnant, just a few people left. He said it's a very small remnant. We are seeing that. In other words, there's a lot of people who are down. There's a whole lot of people who have just about come to the point to where they are defeated and just about ready to give up. So I come to what I want to say. What's the answer? How do we handle this situation? I want to say this evening, I want you to look around. I do not want to be mean, but I want to be honest. Some of our foes have seemingly given up. Some of our foes have kicked the bucket, spiritually speaking. So what do? Well, I say not only look around here, but look around, as I've already suggested, to other churches that are in the same kind of situation. But I want to say not only look around here and look around out there, but look around in your heart. Are you weary? Are you tired? Are you worn out? Have you lost the desire, the burden? Are you just about pinned? Are you to the point to where you're just about ready to give up? I say tonight, you don't have to. So what is the answer? Number one, discernment. I will not say anything new tonight, but I want to remind us of things that we know for sure. Discernment. By that I mean to see the problem. We will never get things fixed that are broken unless we realize they are broken. There's a need for something to be fixed. He says in verse 8, we are troubled. It means to be pressed down. The opponent has that wrestler down on his back. He has one shoulder pinned and the next one's going down, and he's pressing on. That's how the devil does. He never gives up. When one thing's happened, when one thing bad happens, he comes with another bad thing. He keeps pushing and pressing and pushing and pressing, and you know that yourself. And that pressure sometimes can get overwhelming, and it can defeat us if we let it. I'm talking about discernment. Understand what the problem is. He said we're troubled. He not only said we're troubled, but we are perplexed. I thought about this. Here's what that word means. Perplexed means mental loss. Well, I'm saying, hey, I understand that. It has the idea of confusion. It is this thought. What am I going to do? What is the answer? What is the solution? What can be done? What can I do? I am almost pinned. My last shoulder's going down. What can be done? He said we are perplexed. He said also that we are persecuted. The idea, of course, is being mistreated by people, and they were then, and we are now. But it goes further than that. It means pursued. In other words, the enemy is coming after us. He is coming with no mercy. Well, even a little junior boy, when he has that opponent on the way down, there'll be a little bit of tinge, a little tinge of concern, and he will not give up, and he will pin his opponent as he can. But he feels sorry for his opponent when he pins him, but not our devil, not the devil, not our enemy. He's pursuing. He keeps pushing. He keeps pushing. He's coming after us. With all that's within him, he also uses the words cast down. It means to be thrown down violently. I think about a wrestling match and how they will take them up and throw them down on their back. And as they're going down, they are already on the way to go down with all the body weight and push them down. Paul said, that's the condition we're in. That's the condition we've been in. And he says, in essence, we need to realize that. There needs to be discernment. Someone needs to see the condition we're in. Somebody needs to see the need. Paul, by the way, includes himself, as I've already said. He said, but we, not just you, but we. He includes himself. We need to see how serious it is. I'll say it again. This is not some junior league wrestling match that will be forgotten in 6 months or even 6 days probably. This is something spiritual that literally has the weight of the world in it. And God's will, God's way, God's power. I said it already, the church and believers is the way that God moves in the world to change the world, to awake the world, to win the world. And if we as believers are weary and worn, oh, that makes it even more problem and more troublesome for the thing that we need to try to do. We could probably say it like this, as a horrible, I'll use the word, it's abrupt, but I'll use it, sin crisis. The word crisis is, I think, sometimes abused in these days. There's a environmental crisis, there's a earth warming crisis, there's an economic crisis, there's everything. They use the word crisis like everything's about to fall apart. Sometimes that word is correct and defines what's going on just right. Sometimes it's misused, but I guarantee you one thing in this regard, sin crisis and spiritual crisis is the right way to word it. Here's a man just about to lose. Here's a man that's already just about pinned, and that matters. It takes discernment. In other words, to see the need. I say this evening, there's a spiritual epidemic among God's people tonight. And it affects not just us, but the future of the world. What a difference. Because, listen, we're dealing with eternal souls in and outside the church, in and outside our neighborhood, in and outside of our family. We're dealing with eternal souls. I'm talking about discernment, seeing the problem and how serious the problem is. It's too serious to ignore. We cannot bury our heads in the sand. Something needs to be done, and something needs to be done now. It's like having a flat tire. You can't ignore it. Something has to be done to fix it. It won't just go away on its own. That starts with, here's what I always say with me, self-examination, discernment. That fellow's just about ready to be pinned. He better know he's just about ready to be pinned. He needs to know the seriousness of the situation and know that if he continues to do what he has been doing, it's going to get worse. Discernment. But then not only will it take discernment, but it's going to take desire. In verse 8, we are troubled on every hand, yet not distressed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, cast down, but not destroyed. He said, I am just about pinned. There's been times when we are just about been defeated, but we have not been defeated because the Lord helped us. I'm talking about a desire. That wrestler somehow in his heart and in his mind has to get the desire to not lose and the desire to win. If he lacks that desire, he's probably going to lose. He's probably just going to give up. He's probably going to say, it's too late. I'm too weak. My opponent's too strong. No need to keep trying. A desire. We must want God to move. We must want God to do something. We must despise defeat so much that we say, not just don't pin my shoulder, but let me up and I'm going to defeat you. That's what he's saying. I'm not going to be overcome, but I'm going to even not not overcome, but I want to overcome you, devil. I don't want to lose. A desire, a hunger. Most of God's people, maybe I should be a little kinder, many of God's people are satisfied and content with where they're at. And even some who are just about defeated, some who are just down and whooped by the devil, and still it seems like they're content to stay that way. Somebody needs to say, I want to win. I want to see God moving. I want to see people getting up and serving God. I want to see believers getting right. I want to see a church that's alive. I want to see lost souls getting saved. That's desire. It'll take discernment. It'll take desire. It'll take determination. Verses 8 and 9 says, we are, yet not. We are, but not. He said, the truth is we are just about defeated, but the truth is we ain't defeated. There takes a determination that says, even though it looks bad right now, even though I'm having a tough time right now, I will not be defeated. I will not give in. I refuse to quit. I am determined with God's help to do what's necessary to get me up, to bring victory, to put zeal in my life again, to put hunger in my life again, to put joy and peace in my life again, to put power in my life again, and get up off this mat. I'm tired of being defeated. Determination. Determination is being willing to do what needs to be done even when you don't want to. Now, I mentioned just a second ago desire. And the desire to win, the desire not to lose, that's big. Sometimes you don't have the desire. Sometimes I have said from this pulpit, I have said during invitations, you may need to come pray for the desire. You know you need to, but you don't want to. Come and ask God to help you to want to. Desire is important. But what if you don't have the desire? Determination is what I'm talking about now. And determination says, I will do what I need to do to get victory, even if I don't want to. I will do what's right. I will do what's needed. He said, I'm not destroyed yet. I'm not defeated yet. To do what's right no matter what. By the way, that means to do God's will. And we ought to be willing to do God's will whether we want to or not. I'll tell you the truth, and I think you can identify. There's a whole lot of times that I do things I don't really want to. I'm talking about good things, godly things, right things, biblical things, but I don't really want to, but I do it because I know I'm supposed to. And I do it because God tells me to. And I guess, listen, I can tell you this, I believe that He's still pleased. Now, He wants us to want to, but if we don't want to, it's still right to do right, and it's wrong to do wrong. That's determination. It won't be easy. Never has been easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't be malpinned. We wouldn't be beaten down. Then lastly, there's this thought. I'm talking about how do you get up? How do you not be defeated? How do you not give up? Throw in the towel. It'll take discernment. You got to realize the condition, the reality of it. Desire to really want victory, really want to not lose. Determination, the determination to do what needs to be done, even though it's not easy. Then the last thing, dedication. He said in verse 9, we're not destroyed. Not destroyed. You know what he's saying? Here's exactly what he's saying. I ain't dead yet. I'm not defeated yet. I'm not pinned yet. Sometimes I've been real close to it, says Paul. Sometimes we've been real close to it, says Paul, but we weren't. Somehow God intervened and brought us up, got us off the mat, helped us from being defeated. He said, I ain't dead yet. So I want to close with a very few thoughts and ask you this. What can I do? What can I do to help myself and to help others? Number one, don't let the circumstances get to you. Man alive, if you look around the circumstances of today, in the believers and in the world and in churches, you'll say, go ahead, devil, pin me. But we can't let the circumstances get to us. So by that I mean, don't let it discourage you. He said in verse 8, we're not distressed. We're not in despair. Verse 9, we're not destroyed. Don't get discouraged. Don't let what's going on discourage you. How in the world can you not do that? Well, by asking God for help. Here's what David said. Why art thou cast down? Sound like Paul. Why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted in me? Hope thou in God. He said, why are you letting yourself get down? You've got a God to turn to. You got a mighty God who loves you, is walking with you, lives in you, and you don't have to be beaten down. Don't let it discourage you. Number two, don't let it displease you. I thought about this. He said in verse 8, we. I think what he's saying is this. He's like one of those wrestlers that is out there on the mat. He has been thrown down. He has an opponent that's pressing on him, and one shoulder's already down, the other's going down and heading toward the mat. And here's what I think Paul is saying here. While this wrestler is on the mat being so beaten down, so attacked by the opponent, he happens to look over and see some of his teammates laughing and joking and acting like nothing's going on. Some of his teammates who have quit fighting, who've thrown in the towel, and I think that's what he's saying. So I'll say this. We can look around and see people who have quit. We can find people who have let the devil and the world and their flesh and the circumstances get to them, but we cannot let it displease us. I mean by that, don't get angry at them. That's not easy. If you care at all, it's not easy to say, Where in the world are they at? And we preachers do that probably more than anybody else. To have a message that I know will help somebody and they're not here again. And it's not that they are sick, they just decided not to come. I went to a revival a good while back, and I sat down in the pew, and the pastor came by, and I said, I'm not sitting in anybody's seat, am I? Here's what he said, no, that's a Sunday morning crowd. And he didn't mean it to be mean at all, but he knew the people who sit on this pew will not be here, because they're here on Sunday morning, and that's all. And that's the burden of the pastor of today, always has been. And we as believers on Wednesday night that I depend on and count on and am refreshed by, we need to realize there's people who have been defeated. They've let their shoulder fall. They've just about defeated if they aren't defeated. And it's so easy to look negatively at them. But we should not let it displease us. We should not let it get to us. In John 6:66, from that time many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. I thought about that verse in this aspect. Even while he walked the earth, while he was there physically, while he could speak to them and they could hear him speak, see him work miracles, hear him, touch him, enjoy him. Even then, a lot of people walked off. And if they did when he walked this earth, they will walk off now. It ought to burden us, it ought to concern us, but we cannot let it defeat us. You must keep on walking. God, by the way, can touch their hearts. I've already said some that I have been praying for. I see God moving and touching. Impossible can't happen, but it is happening. God can do the impossible. But by the way, we're not trusting them, we're trusting the Lord to touch them, and that's what's so important. Don't let it displease you. Don't get angry at those that are you're wrestling and they seem to be by the wayside laughing and picking and not caring at all about your burden. They're not concerned about their burden either. Don't let it discourage you. Don't let it displease you. Don't let it deceive you. Here's what he said. Not. Now, I know that's more nots than he gave, but that's what he's saying. We are perplexed. We are pursued. We are down. We are beaten, but we're not defeated. So don't let it deceive you in thinking, what's the use? Especially if God said this thing in the last few days, there's going to be a falling away. Why try? Because you don't have to be a part of the falling away. We can still have revival in our hearts. We can still see God move. You can still walk with God in love and with power. So don't let it deceive you. Don't think, oh, that wrestler, I'm too weak, I'm too tired, the opponent's too strong, I'm going to just give up. No, don't let that happen. The next thing, don't let it defeat you. That psalm that I talked about where David said, what in the world's wrong with you? He ends it with, hope thou in God. It isn't too bad. It's bad, but it isn't too bad. It's not too late. It's late, but it's not too late for God to move and to work. God is still God. There's no telling what he could do. He does his best work when things are real bad. He opened the Red Sea for his people. When Gideon had 300, he gave victory. When Nehemiah was under the gun and battles and everything else, God came through. By the way, when there was a man in the tomb dead, God came through. He works when things are real bad. And it isn't time to quit or give up. Joshua, God said, get thee up, wherefore liest thou thus on thy face? Joshua, by the way, he's praying. And God said, get yourself up and do what I've told you to do. Even not time to pray, then it's time to do something, get something going. We all need help. We all need strength, and self-help won't work. We need a work of God. Do you know what happened when you got saved? God worked in your life.
And when you called on him, when you repented of your sin, when you trusted him by faith, you asked him to save you, or whatever words you used, he did something miraculous in your heart. Boom, it happened. That's the work of God. And that's the kind of work, not to get saved again, of course not, but we need that divine work of God. That man's just about pinned. If he don't get some help, he's going to be pinned. He's going to be defeated. But the work of God in the heart and life of that person who's down, God can bring them up. God can help them. It'll be a work of grace where that person's different. And that kind of work, that kind of grace can only come from God. Why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted in me? Hope thou in God.
It's not time to be defeated. It's not time to give up. It ain't looking real pretty. It's not looking real bright in the church world if we look at the reality of it. But the God who can do the impossible can help us. There's just no telling what he might do. Let's stand together. Maybe tonight there's somebody who wants to pray for themselves. Maybe somebody wants to